that's really important because identity drives behaviors. Who we believe we are at a core level is what's driving the subconscious. We may not understand why we keep picking up certain foods or why we keep spending certain money. And it's who we believe we are. And all of us at one point felt really confident about who we are. And when we're grounded in that and feel really confident, nobody else on the planet can tell us who we are. Welcome to the Butterfly Event Podcast, where we embark on an immersive exploration of self-awareness, both in the mind and through the body. In this episode, we're going to dive deep into the intricate landscapes of our inner worlds, examine our thoughts, our emotions, and physical sensations, and how they intertwine to shape our perceptions of ourselves. Join Martha and myself as we unravel the dimensions of mental self-awareness and discuss the importance of recognizing and understanding our thought patterns, emotional triggers, and beliefs. We're going to dive into various techniques from a mindfulness, meditative type of exercise to how important it is to journal self-reflectively. This is going to foster a sharper sense of awareness and promote mental clarity. So tune in, let go, and immerse yourself in the art of becoming aware. The journey to self-discovery beckons, so it's time to dive deep. I'm your host, Heather Hewett, published author and double board certified traditional naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I have over 21 years experience in clinical nutrition and health and life coaching. My co-host Martha Charneskey has 20 years of experience in her studies of acupuncture, traditional Chinese medicine, phytomedicine, massage therapy, and lymphatic drainage. So let's get started. So Martha, how's your week been since our last episode?
Pretty good. We took a day trip up to Wisconsin, saw the colors changing on the trees. It was gorgeous. The weather was a little chilly, but really nice food, nice restaurants, just a really short trip. Came home the next day, needed vacation from the vacation. You know how that is. But all in all, it's been a pretty good week. How about you, Heather?
That's great. I love kind of getting away and change of scenery. I'm glad you're able to do that. Remember how last time we got together for an episode, we talked a lot about self-awareness. We kind of got into that. So talk about trial by fire and putting that to the test. So last weekend, it was last Friday, I was supposed to be going to a going away party with my family. And I got lost, which is not uncommon for me, but I got lost. And self-awareness is all about being able to, comprehend your own feelings and emotions. So I definitely put that to the test because I got really aggravated, frustrated. I have a hard time seeing at night. So that was a huge challenge.
Mm.
And it was just really tough. So I had to kind of just pause for a minute, and after 45 minutes of being frustrated and I never reached my destination, I knew at that point I was dysregulated. And even after utilizing all my tools that I had, I can tell I was spent, done. I had to go back home. So that's what I did. And at first I felt a bit frustrated, but then I said, I was overly tired. There was a lot of things going on at once, and it's okay. I'm okay. It's okay. So really interesting because we have this complex landscape of feelings and emotions, and learning how to navigate that can be really tough at times. But I made it through. It's okay. I'm okay. It's all right. But I like to have a sense of humor about it and look back, and instead of beating myself up about stuff. It's all about understanding myself. It's a journey. Self awareness is not an academic exercise at all. It takes time and practice to be able to have mastery over our emotional responses and interactions with others. So, what are your thoughts on that, Martha? I mean,
I feel that was a classic example of learning that you have limits,
yes,
because self-awareness, if you think you actually have control over everything, you're fooling yourself, because
right,
there's so many factors in life that we can't really dictate what's going to happen. Self-awareness, it comes in so many aspects and just levels, I'll say.
yes,
The most common one might be, when we're aware of our own needs or our own desires, our own aspirations, those types of things. Those turn into understanding our emotions, when we're feeling them, when we're feeling triggered. Like you knew, okay, no sleep. I didn't, you got the factors in there. And that's how we all start becoming more aware. It doesn't usually happen when we're children or teens, even. We might have a level.
yeah.
They even say you're self-aware by 12 months or 15 months old. Seeing
Hmm.
yourself in the mirror before you can even say that's
Mhm.
me.
Right.
So self-awareness starts to develop, and what we can do is enhance that growth,
Yes.
by pausing, recognizing our personal triggers. So there's a lot of factors. So maybe you want to add something to that.
Yeah, beautifully said. Wow. I love that. It started when we were looking in the mirror as a baby. I just went there and was thinking about that. You're so right. Well, when we cultivate self awareness, and as you mentioned, we're cultivating it. I love that. So it starts and we get better and we cultivate it. That's when we get more attuned to our emotions. We're able to recognize like those basic emotions like joy, anger, sadness, anxiety when it arises within us. And then this heightened awareness allows us to name our feelings. At one point, I was not even able to name them, let alone do it accurately. And it was all encompassing. I got swept up in it. You get frustrated. It's all bubbling up, and then it could come out. Sometimes we can project it onto somebody else. But you learn over time how to pause rather than react, and that's huge. So you can just take that metaphorical step back, take ownership of your emotion, name where you're feeling it in your body instead of going off on somebody. So how has, pausing helped you, Martha? Is there something you can think about that has helped you?
And I was just thinking, all my life, I've been the underreactor. I'm not like the nuclear reactor, you know, Be- because a lot of times I feel like I am so busy, taking in every aspect of the situation that I'm not reacting. I have
Yeah.
actually had to learn how to realize I need to, make a quick judgment here. I need to act on this or whatever, but I think it's better to be the underreactor in most situations.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm the reactor that I look back at yesterday and I think, oh, I said this. I wonder if I hurt their feelings, And
Mm.
I actually had that experience recently. I was with some friends that I love. I don't know them very well. They don't know me very well. But the next day I thought, ooh, I wonder if what I said hurt somebody's feelings. So
Mhm.
I sent a text and I said, did I offend anyone with this comment? Because I really didn't intend it. And my new friend, she sent me back a message. She said, no offense was taken. You're in a safe space with me. And
Oh,
I was like, that was beautiful,
yeah.
and smiley face, So I was just like, I love this girl, she's my new buddy. And so we need to, I was afraid I offended somebody. And I think it's better to overreact in that case than if you just left it hanging and there was some hard feelings
Right.
there, you know,
Right.
because sometimes people that don't know you that well, they aren't going to speak up,
Yes.
and they don't know. if you're gonna never talk to them again. I'm not like that. I'm pretty much chill. You know me.
Right.
You can say things and I'm gonna move on. I know we all have those moments, where we're
Yeah,
unfiltered and we have wild talk or whatever. We all have that little nature that can break free,
that's
But for the
true.
best part, we need to get a filter, so that we're not overreacting to and maybe we were that person who had no filter, or maybe we know we're living with those people, So, we realize the advantage of the pause. That pause
Yes,
is kind of like setting, our own personal boundary, like for what we're gonna,
that's
give,
right.
how we're showing up.
I love that. And there's nothing wrong with over communicating. I do that too. I'd rather go to someone and ask if I hurt them. I'm always doing that too, by the way, going, did I say, and it wasn't necessarily something that the person was saying or doing. I just rather over communicate what my intentions are, because my one of my goals is for people to be safe with me. But that comes into that whole self-awareness realm that empowers us to be able to take the initiative like you did. And we're able to understand triggers and the way emotions influence us and others. Then there's the whole thing with environmental factors, which play a huge key, or past experiences and traumas that we have that lie under the surface, and even latent fears that can provoke reactions. But when we monitor our responses, that's when we know how to spotlight the triggers, and we can rewrite that narrative of how we engage with them. We don't have to be a victim to it forever. I believe in being proactive, managing. That helps resilience. We're able to face adversity. We're not overburdened in our mind or overburdened in our heart. And then self awareness fosters empathy, enhances relationships with others, and it really helps us to understand emotional patterns. So we're able to understand the complexities of people around us. Oftentimes, people aren't even thinking about us, it doesn't have anything to do with us. They're going through all their own complexities. It helps us to just connect better with others and diffuse conflicts, having compassion rather than defensiveness, kind of turning away potential storms, and helps us have growth and understanding. So, how has self awareness, have you found, Martha, has that improved your relationships because you pause or are concerned and care about other people, as you mentioned?
I'll say one factor is that people know that I'm not judging them. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
they realize I'm willing to listen. I as a highly sensitive person like yourself, fairly neurodivergent, which makes life more complex, keeps it interesting though. I kind of evaluate and I don't judge or try to guess where people are coming from, because you're usually wrong when you assume about somebody,
Hmm. That's
So
right.
because I don't know all the factors of where someone's coming from, even the non-filtered version of people I love, I I'm patient with that, because I feel like you need to be approachable, you need to be that safe space, you need to build trust, you want to just keep that love flowing. I remember asking my dad when my son was, going through stuff, and I said, "What do I do?" And he's like, "Keep loving him," And I was like, "You know what?
Mhm.
That's good advice." It's something that we learn from our parents. And this was another thing I was thinking about, is if we're raising kids and we're not self-aware, we can raise a broken adult, you know?
Yes,
Because
well
we're
said.
actually putting triggers on them. We're putting our past
Yes.
trauma triggers on our kids, So you kind of have to make a decision. I'm not going to be that mom who yells at my kid. I'm not going to be the mom who doesn't let my kids speak up when they have something I don't want to hear. You have to, those are self awareness things that you're going to pass on a better legacy to your kid, that they're going to be a better parent too. We don't want to
Hmm.
pass on those broken triggers, that have
That's right.
damaged our own, you know, self-esteem or our own relationships, So I feel it's helped me in raising my son. I know it's helped me stay married for 26 years, which also takes a great sense of humor, I'll say, you know. You've been married a while. How long have you been married? I mean, if you don't mind me asking.
32 years
Yeah.
this year. So yeah, I mean, and my sense of humor gets better every year.
Yeah, right. So,
Yeah,
and look at how much pausing has helped that, in your own
exactly.
situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm able to, and I appreciate you sharing what you shared. I'm glad you brought that up because as parents, if we're not self aware, we can project onto our children, our ickiness and trauma and everything that we have. Because as it is, we have generational trauma that we have been born with, and there's cultural trauma, environmental trauma, there's all these types of trauma. And now we're going to thrust that upon our child because we're not self aware. I mean, there are times my youngest has spoken up and he'll be like, look, don't take your stuff out on me. He said that a couple of times and he didn't say it in a disrespectful way. It was like cold water in my face, such it made me say, well, wait, okay, I need to dismiss myself right now and go regulate myself. And I did that and I came back and I said, yes, you're right. I'm sorry. However, dishes still need to be done. Your room needs to be cleaned up. Okay. So you're right about what you said. However, it's not going to change that.
Right.
But it made me more aware of, he keeps me on my toes at times because sometimes at the end of the day, we get a bit disjointed, dysregulated.
Yeah.
My nervous system is activated and I'm able to say, hey, okay, let me pause here for a minute. I made a mistake. But that's the whole self awareness vibe that we're talking about.
Right.
That the fact that I'm able to say, oh, introspectively, I am activated right now. What can I do to bring myself back to self, to bring myself back into this ventral parasympathetic state right now? And I'll do that. And there are times where I couldn't come out of it. I knew I needed to go to sleep. And that's what I did. I went to my husband, I went to my son and said, look, I can't, I am at the place I have to go to bed. I'm done. No offense. I'm done. I could just tell. I tried everything and that was it. It was sleep that I needed. And I did that.
Yeah.
And there are times that, hey, that old person came back and I feel sorry for everybody. Just say that. And I had to go back and apologize and all of that. But I'm glad you brought that up because, yes, in relationships and relationship with ourselves and whoever our higher power or higher source is really important first. Those relationships are important. And then we're able to, that trickles down to our marriage and as well as a partner, spouse, and children at that point. And having that self awareness is so, so very important. So I know we brought up last episode, you brought up something really profound about self awareness versus being self conscious. I remember we talked about that some weeks ago, I was like, wow, that just hit me. Could you elaborate a little bit more than last time on that?
So, self awareness is something that we discussed. We're born with it. So, we have a level of it. Trauma can stunt it or hinder the development of it as it naturally should progress as we develop physically, you know. Yeah, but there's also something can be interference with self awareness, and that would
Mm,
be if you're living with a narcissistic parent or a
mm,
spouse or someone who is abusive. This intensifies a self awareness to where it becomes overly magnified, where you're actually starting to rethink, who am I? Because this person is telling me something negative or not kind about me that I've never felt was true, but now am I that person, or are they projecting? What we
Mhm.
have to pause, that's where the pause comes in, where we say it's them, not me,
Right.
because sometimes they are so damaged or triggered that they're
Right.
just, they see you and you're just trying to be a good person, and that's not what they're used to. So they're trying to turn you into what they saw in a relationship with their parents, or some harsh situation. So you become this
Right.
kind of overly, self-absorbed person. Now you're not reaching out to help others. You're literally just turning internal, and you're thinking, how am I coming across? Are they right? Does nobody like me? You
Mm.
really get this, almost like a persona that doesn't exist. They're creating it. So this is where you have to say, okay, I realize this is happening to me. Somebody's inflicting emotional wounds that are causing me to be self-absorbed or self-conscious. And one of the ways this is, if you've got even the little bit of damage, is you walk into a place where you perfectly well belong, and you all of a sudden think
Right.
everyone's looking at you, and do I look stupid, or is my hair messed up? You're overthinking it. So you have to realize, and kind of you mentioned this earlier, that everyone in the room isn't thinking about you. They have their own stuff. So you
Right.
have to regain a perspective of who you are, of the value that you have, that your life matters, and stop absorbing the damage if someone is interfering with your self-awareness, if they're
Mhm.
causing it to go askew, because balanced self-esteem and balanced self-perception are really important.
Mm.
That way you can be a productive member of society. You can give back. You're not home just trying to get in your bed and crawl away from the world. You're actually feeling like, I can contribute something. I am strong. I am cared about. I am loved. And sometimes you might even need to be the one person to tell yourself that. Say,
Yes.
say, I am strong. I am loved. And you have friends that love you. So,
Yes.
your job is not to heal that person who's hurting you. Your job is not to control that person that's hurting you. That is not your job. Your job is you. No one's coming
Yes.
to help you but you. So you
That's that.
have friends, but you have to see where you have the weakness, and where you need to, if you're insecure, you need to, I'll say, just put on some lipstick. I know that sounds simple, but sometimes we just need a little tiny
Right.
thing that's going to push us
Right.
past that.
That's
But
right.
being too self-conscious, I've been there.
You
it's
bet. Me
it's
too.
it's like a wallowing in my own self-pity mode, and it's not good. You
Exactly.
We are stronger than that. We're stronger than we think. We can get strength by, our study of the Bible, even prayer. That's going to give us inner strength to
Right.
rise above these moments where we're just not feeling it, where we're just feeling like I'm worthless or whatever. And we all have those days. And that's an emotional spiral. We can talk about that one day, not right now, but those things, there are solutions to that. There's steps we can take that aren't, going to take a lot of time. We're actually going to make good decisions that start lifting us up and lifting our life up. Okay.
Yes. Beautifully said. Wow. And I've been there. And as you were explaining that and expounding on that, I started getting these visual images of time periods where that happened to me. And then when I went into either this dorsal vagal shutdown where you're just completely shut down, giving up, feeling hopeless, or I went into codependency, where, as you mentioned, and I was so glad you said that, it's not our job to change someone else. We take this self awareness, we take this self consciousness, and we do something constructive and proactive with it toward ourselves in a good way. And I'm glad you said that, because I used to be on that hamster wheel of trying to change people, my spouse, other people, whatever, instead of working on me,
We've all done
which
that.
which made it worse, by the way, which we know that. But it's really important. And it all comes down to self-reflection too. Self-awareness, and we're going to get into some of that a bit more, but practicing self-reflection is very important with self-awareness, because there's the self-awareness mentally and there's the self-awareness within our body. And actually writing and journaling, practicing self-reflection through writing and journaling, is really important, actually, this type, in what we're talking about, because other things will come out that we weren't aware of were there. And then having honest discussions, frank discussions with a trusted confidant, somebody that we feel safe with, can also amplify our self awareness. Where I know you and I have had discussions in the past, and the other person can bring up some things that they've seen or noticed. And you're like, oh, wow, that's true. Wow. Well, thanks for catching that. And now I can write about it, pray about it, whatever. And it's a healthy way of enhancing our self awareness. It's a healthy way of coping and communicating, because oftentimes where the behaviors start to go awry is when we're not reflective and knowing what's going on. And the more we understand our individual emotional landscape, the better equipped we can be to be able to navigate life, challenges that come up, and then relationships. So, this leads me to one of my favorite exercises that I do with my clients. I know I've talked to you about this, Martha, in the past. I love this exercise. I do this with my clients. It's part of the identity work that I do, but is one of the number one exercises for self awareness, and is the number one exercise as far as I'm concerned. In my With me helping people and coaching people, and just even helping myself and others. And it's, like I said, it's part of the identity work that I do. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of demonstrate what this exercise is. And it's a straightforward, profound question that gets asked. And I usually do it anywhere between 5 to 10 times with clients. And what I do is I read their body language, I read the room, and when I ask the question and they say it, I read in between the lines, use my intuition, insight, and discernment around where to go with that question next time, and repeat it. So the question gets repeated 5 to 10 times. The person doesn't overthink the answer. It's whatever comes to mind. And the whole purpose of it is, we're peeling back layers, and that's important. So there's the conscious and the subconscious. And what I love about this exercise is I hear the conscious of what people, how they see themselves. But when I get to the layers, like the bottom of the layers, and I get to that core part, then that real person comes out. And oftentimes when I do this exercise with clients, there's crying when I do it, but not in the sense of a sadness
It's a
and this
breakthrough.
so
It's more of
heavy.
a,
It's
yeah.
a breakthrough. They meet themselves at their core, and I cannot. It has become almost. I swear, it'll make my day or make my week when I get to witness this breakthrough. And it's amazing, because I've done exercises with people, but the breakthrough that I've experienced with people with this has been just amazing. And then people will send me an email after thanking me. Oh, I can't, it's just like a load off. So how it works is you can do it by yourself. And if you did it by yourself, you just would ask, who am I? And then you would write down the response. Who am I? And then write down the response. We're peeling back layers. When you do it with another person, it works the best, and it'd be somebody that you really trust, feel safe with, or an experienced facilitator, as I mentioned with how I do it. When you do that, all these different things come up. And if you do it with a friend, you can do it this way. I would say, "Who are you?" The friend would respond. And then they would ask me, "Who are you?" And I would respond. And you can go back and forth like that. That would be another way of doing it. So, the way that I have found that I have gotten the deepest work with people is when I facilitated with them. Like I said, I just end up meeting different parts of them. It's pretty amazing. So that's what we're going to demonstrate. We're going to demonstrate this. And as I
You're not
mentioned,
going to make me answer, are you?
no, I'm not. No, I'm
Because
just
I
going to
have a
ask.
pen and paper. I was ready to write it down.
Yeah, if you wanted to, we could, but I'm going to do it as I was going to do it on myself as an example of how to do it. But here's what I want everybody to know: there's no right or wrong way of doing it. So the way you hear me doing it, and if you were to do it with someone else or do it with yourself, it may come out completely different. So I don't want this to be a framework for how it's to be done, just a framework of what to expect. That's all, passively what to expect and how it works. And doing it, I'm just going to do it 5 times. And as I mentioned, for most people, 8 to 10 times is when I get to the core person. And then that core person, then we do identity work from that core person or the new identity that they want to have. Now, we're going to go into identity a little bit in another episode, but that's really important because identity drives behaviors. Who we believe we are on a core level is what's driving the subconscious. We may not understand why we keep picking up certain foods or why we keep spending certain money. And it's who we believe we are. And all of us at one point felt really confident about who we are. And when we're grounded in that and feel really confident, nobody else on the planet can tell us who we are at that point. And that's why it's really important. And it sounds maybe silly or primitive, but honestly, it is very effective. And this is one of the exercises I do with clients, and it had helped them stop drinking, stop binging, doing identity work around this. So I'm going to show exactly how to do it. And at first, there's going to be obvious things that come up like jobs, relationships, hobbies, things like that. And then as the exercise progresses, it gets harder. And that means now we're going to dive deep into the subconscious. And that's the whole point. That's what we want. That's what we want to bring up. So we're going to get to this. We're going to start with, use a demonstration on myself. So the first question, I'm going to just say it. Actually, Martha, you ask it. Would you mind asking the "Who are you?" instead of me doing it on myself? You just ask me. And we're just going to do it 5 times.
Okay.
Okay.
How
All right.
much time do you want me to give you for the answer? Like
I'm just going to, you'll
10
know because I'm
seconds?
going to
All right.
say it out. I'm going to
Okay.
say it out. And I'm not going to overthink it, whatever comes to mind.
Okay. All right. Heather, who are you?
The first thing that comes to mind is a servant of God.
Beautiful. All right. Heather, who are you?
I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother now.
Heather, who are you?
I am BB, which is my name for grandmother that I picked out, and it means lady of the house.
Aw.
Yeah.
Who are you, Heather?
I am a loyal, kind, empathetic, compassionate, passionate person about life and somebody that'll do anything for her God, family, and friends. That's who I really am.
Heather, who are you?
Mm. I am loving. I am trusting.
Perfect. That was
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And the trusting one shocked me. Every time I do this exercise, something else comes up. That's what's cool about this. I
Mhm.
swear. Trusting is the last thing I thought would come up because I have been very distrusting because of trauma and pain and being hurt. But now that is something, a place I wanted to get to. So
Yeah.
that's something I can explore with self reflective questions. So we went through layers and you did an excellent job, Martha. Thank you. And I felt safe with you. I could tell because I said trusting, which was a new one. So, what a person would want to do after they do this is really reflect on their experience and ask themselves some questions. Do they tend to associate their identity with their profession or relationship status?
Yeah.
Did any of their responses surprise them, like mine did, about the trusting part? What did they discover about themselves? And did the exercise remind them of a forgotten or hidden area of who they are? And then you'll just kind of know, okay, this is how I see myself. Like I'm BB, I'm lady of the house, basically. I'm making sure everybody has what they need. That's huge. That's huge how we see ourselves.
Yeah.
Understanding too that our identity is very fluid. So one week we could say we're one thing, but something else happens in our life and another identity comes up, which is important. And we kind of discover a new part within ourselves because self awareness isn't the end goal or destination. As you mentioned earlier, Martha, it's a lifelong practice. And we're able to see that we have immense potential by doing this exercise. And we can get better at self awareness and foster emotional well being, which is important. And by embracing the journey of self awareness, we empower ourselves. I used to walk around feeling so disempowered and discombobulated and just couldn't manage my emotions at all, and especially relationships. So I thought this was fantastic. I was happy to be able to demonstrate this. Any final words on what you saw with the exercise or how you felt or any thoughts on it?
I do appreciate that exercise. I've seen it and I do feel like it's a good thing to do alone, but you have to know how to work with those answers. So sometimes it is better to have a friend that you trust involved, because if you do have some sort of breakthrough, sometimes those breakthroughs are a breakdown
Yes.
before they're a breakthrough, So when you have I've had a breakdown, not like hospital type, but where I really lost control of a situation because, and this was about 10 years ago or maybe 9 or whatever. It would surprise me because I was just like, I'm breaking down. This is just destroying me.
Wow.
And it really, to build up from that was actually good. There's a time to break down and there's a time to build up. I needed that breakdown to have a breakthrough. So sometimes
Yes.
that's
Yes.
where you're at with that, you know,
Yes.
asking yourself, who am I? Who am I to me? Who am I to God? You know,
Yeah,
who am I to a lot of other people? But primarily, we only have those answers inside of us. They
that's right.
can't come from outside. To
That's right.
heal our childhood person that needs that love and the little, you're okay. I love you. We all have that little person inside of us that is longing for love and, you know, even having choices. I don't know how many siblings you have, but I had 5 kids in our family. I didn't have a choice for much of anything, it's hand me downs and whatever. But you teach yourself tolerance from that, but you also grow as you realize I do have feelings about these things. I do have an identity with
Mm-hmm.
food or with alcohol or, with the opposite sex or whatever it is. You realize I need to work on these qualities so that I can have self-respect, treat people with dignity. So when you
Yes.
find that breakdown, you got to break through it. And one last thought, and this is I'll say the another level of self-awareness, is this thing that my husband and I do, and we call it future self-awareness. So
Yes.
it's where you're planning for who you are tomorrow or in the future. And
Yes.
just a little example kind of reminded me when you were talking about your son doing the dishes. Like if you eat dinner, I know I'm off topic, but I just thought this was interesting because it really helps you to plan better. Is you eat dinner, you go sit down, you relax, and you come back in the kitchen. There's pots and pans everywhere. There's dirty dishes, and you think, I'll get to it tomorrow. How is future Heather going to feel? How is future Martha
Yes.
going to feel? You're like, wait, I have a busy day tomorrow. Why don't I just do it now? Let
Yes.
me make a decision that's for future Martha,
Yes.
and that's a higher level of self-awareness. And,
That's right.
my husband and I both do that. We kind of joke around. I'm like, is future Johnny going to like this? And so
Yes. I love that.
but it helps us to keep reeling it in to be, get our perspective on point, So anyway, I'm going to do the
Yeah.
exercise with you another time, but I really feel like I appreciate that.
Yeah, awesome. And I love your experience with your husband. I love that question. It just brings us right back to center with things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's so, so true. Thank you for bringing that up. And you mentioned too identity and you mentioned food briefly. And I wanted to just share this one final thought, and that is I used to identify as a food addict. I don't do that anymore. And that's because that's an identity. And if I keep identifying myself as a food addict, what's to come? I mean, you're going to behave that way, or you're fighting back or white knuckling it, or it's just a lapse or relapse waiting to happen at that point. But now I identify as someone who has a healthy relationship with themselves, my mind, my body, and as well as with food and others. And because of that, I behave that way. And we're going to go into identity work a little bit more into the future, because then you map out what behaviors does that identity have. And that's how you behave that way. So, yeah, really important stuff. Thank you, Martha,
Yeah.
and bringing up the higher level too.
And just to add, we did not plan wearing the same color.
Oh, yeah, I know,
That
right?
just
That was
happened.
so funny.
It was pretty funny when we came on camera and it was like, wait, huh?
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because no, we didn't plan that. I will say, however, though, we did plan this. Martha did this, and it's just beautiful. Thank you for that. I even love the back embrace change, embrace your inner butterfly. That's just awesome. We did plan that, though. Full disclosure. So I just thank you again, Martha. As we
Happy to be
wrap up
here.
today, we took a deep dive into the most important pillar of emotional intelligence, which is self awareness. We learned that self awareness isn't just a mental game, but also somatic, or awareness of the body, and what and how to navigate the sensations and feelings that we have in our body. Self awareness is a skill. We're from birth had it, but we practice and we develop it, and it gets better, and we never arrive at a destination. It's an ongoing process, and it takes practice and patience. And then Martha took us to school on self-conscious versus self-awareness, and then we delved into that self-awareness exercise that I love, I'm very passionate about. I've seen breakthroughs with people as well as myself. I'd love to use this with clients. And so I truly hope you found today's episode